This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com. The fans requested it in my earlier interview with former world-class wrestling show TV producer, which got 15 ratings at some point. That was done live earlier, and some fans were asking me, when are you going to do your next 420 video? Well, I'll do it during the comments of this Wrestling Observer review, but not during the review, because I'm going to ignore, there's already a ton of comments on here. I'll go to the comments after, but there's a lot of news today and a lot of interesting news today. The two great workouts, but it's getting cold here in Ottawa, Canada. Again, we had a blessing of just about a week of warmer weather, and those runs outside were euphoric. But it's cold again tonight. So let's hope I can get across the border in December, because I would like to take December away from the cold. And I have a lot of plans to get you wonderful fans a lot of footage in December. But let me get straight into the news. I can talk more about that later. In WWE news, and I'm sorry, I'd never even heard of this girl till today, but she was popular apparently. At one point, she was getting a big push. Zelina Vega was fired for WWE and then tweeted she was for unionization. We've recently found out that WWE has not wanted their talent to be on Twitch and so forth. I guess she had a fans only page where she would do cosplay dressing up. So yeah, maybe it was an issue that she didn't want to shut down her stuff because she could have been making more money there than with WWE, where overall the females aren't paid as much as the males. Even though Stephanie McMahon allegedly, well, reportedly, when female actresses were demanding equal pay, she was on their side. But female wrestlers don't have equal pay of male wrestlers on average. But anyways, as far as unionization of wrestling, it would be very bad for the fans. You really need a lot of turnover in wrestling, honestly, because some people just don't have the heart for it. Some people just can't cut it. Some people get derailed with drugs or alcohol or other things, or get a family, and they lose their entertainment value. So we'd be stuck with less entertaining wrestlers if there was a union, because it would be harder to release wrestlers who are meant to be released. And also because of budget, that might force some better wrestlers to not be able to get hired. So that's what I think from an entertainment standpoint. And if it wasn't entertaining, it would get less popular, and that would ultimately be bad for the industry. As we've seen, it is less popular now, unfortunately, but there are some good things happening in wrestling. And it's not Shaq apparently coming to AEW. I hope it gets you some extra publicity, but that is not the thing that's going to turn everything around. Shaq at 48 years old getting into wrestling with someone that's only been in the business 2 years managing him. As I drink a glass of milk. Supposedly, according to Lloyd and Noah's interview with me earlier this week, TJ Wilson and Daniel Bryan's favorite meal in England was milk. And I would suggest you guys check that interview out. He was also known as LA Smooth. WWE has to move out of the Amway Center in Orlando, where they're doing the Thunderdome tapings, by December the 5th, because the Orlando Magic needs it. I remember, by the way, Shaquille O'Neal, when he was at his peak in popularity around 94, appearing at that Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan WCW the beach show that, by the way, Kevin Sullivan brings up in his hour-long shoot on Ric Flair that I posted from his Taskmaster Talks podcast. And he'll be appearing in Texas December 12th for SWE Fury and December 19th for the NAWA show in Daytona Beach, speaking of Florida, managing probably the most violent and dangerous man in professional wrestling today, the Blood Hunter. Serena Bevis, who is Paige, said in an interview with God TV that there was allegedly abuse in her relationship with Alberto Del Rio, which that's a sad situation. He has other issues. He's facing jail time in another female abuse-related case. Apparently, there's WWE. This is an interesting thing that I talked about in less detail earlier this week about WWE supposedly either cutting way back or eliminating live events. As according to Meltzer here, they've told wrestlers in recent negotiations that the old way of touring is not coming back, which was usually 3 house shows a week for each brand. So that's 6 cities a week that would not be getting house shows. Apparently there's being steps taken in the company pretty much admitting this is happening. They released Tony Chimmel, a house show ring announcer. By the way, Bill Alfonso is doing an interview with me live tomorrow at 3 p.m. on this channel. Who used to be, I remember him from house shows as a referee, but he was also in WCW as Giant Gonzalez's handler. And I guess he warmed up ring rats on occasion for Gonzalez. Of course, the company is setting record profits to get back to the house shows without doing house shows right now, even though they're releasing and firing a lot of people. They're making record profits. So why keep doing house shows? Apparently, according to Meltzer, merch numbers online have skyrocketed during lockdown. So it's making up for the merchandise that's not being sold at house shows. And as far as the younger talent, and there's a lot of talent now that have no experience, and also how much experience are you going to get on the indie? You know what? This is sad for the wrestling industry, but Meltzer mentions this is where the loss of house shows is going to hurt. Lack of experience for talent, where you learn on the house shows and you have more freedom on the house shows because matches are completely choreographed on TV shows, but they sign people with zero experience, pay them to train, so they never learn the importance of drawing or having to do publicity or having to create an angle to have to get paid. There's no urgency there because you're always getting paid from the time training. So you never learn like in the old days when the wrestlers were paid on the house. And they had to kayfabe because they wanted to make money and sell angles. They didn't go in the local newspaper a week before and say it was all fake and they're all friends because no one would show up at the show. So anyways, I'm just saying that that's why the wrestlers were so much better in a lot of ways, because they had to be their characters to sell their characters so people would buy tickets to shows. When you hire people and they never have to learn that. And even now on the indie scene, they're usually getting guarantees so they don't have to learn it. But if you're a promoter like I am, you have to sell or you lose a ton of money on events. The good thing about no house shows is for the stars like the Randy Ortons making the millions and millions and millions and millions and millions a year. There's less wear and tear on the body so they can have more longevity. Derek Castleman, I guess, was in charge of arena merchandise was released. He was with the company since 1993. Chimmel worked with the company for 29 years. The Survivor Series, there's going to be a farewell ceremony for The Undertaker. Savio Vega is going to be there, who, speaking of the Blood Hunter, has worked with the Blood Hunter before and is a big fan of the Puerto Rican Chupacabra, the Blood Hunter. Dwayne Johnson is going to do another Scorpion King movie. Maybe they'll use L.A. Smooth in that because he was in the recent movie Fast and Furious related with The Rock and Roman Reigns. Jetty Solo, the Spanish language commentator, speaking of Spanish-speaking people, was fired on November 6th. Cena is in Canada quarantining right now because you still got to quarantine here for 2 weeks before he starts work on a new TV series, Suicide Squad related. I have no interest in comic book related movies. I know a lot of people do. The 185-pound Alex Zane has been signed by WWE. AEW did a 0.3 rating. NXT did a 0.16 rating. Miz and Mrs. did a 0.22 rating, higher than NXT. SmackDown did a 0.5 rating. Raw did a 0.52 rating as I take another sip of my milk here. Skim milk, by the way. But I only just finished working out, so I can take it in right now. Hitting my heavy bag. Tony Khan made a tweet about how this announcement on Wednesday is going to change the balance of power in the wrestling business. The Dynamite that got a 0.3 rating, which is about more or less what they always get. Apparently, everyone thought this was actually Shaquille O'Neal, but originally they were thinking, is this going to be Brock Lesnar coming to the company, Sting? But it's even worse. He wasn't even referencing Shaquille O'Neal. Apparently, he was referencing, according to Meltzer, Pac's return, who is a guy that only the smartest of smart marks give a damn about, which is really funny. Shaquille O'Neal was backstage at the show, apparently, and they seemed to tease a Rhodes versus O'Neal match. I hope that gets them some publicity. Meltzer mentions dealing with O'Neal can be difficult. O'Neal versus Big Show more than once was scheduled for WrestleMania, only to fall through, with each side blaming the other. Full Gear, the AEW pay-per-view, had 850 paid and 1,000 fans total in the building. The woman bodybuilder Cody Rhodes segment, where this girl was supposedly representing Shaquille O'Neal, is 28 years old. She's a model and had a WWE tryout in 2019. She wasn't signed from. She's had about 2 years in the business, apparently. Teddy Long knows her. Teddy Long from SWE Fury knows her. Jake Hager said apparently at one point he was supposed to beat John Cena for a title, but Cena refused to job for him. When you're a big star, you can really choose who and who you don't want a job for. AEW announced that the NWA Women's Champion Serena Deb will defend her title against Thunder Rosa, former champion, who I interviewed not too long ago when she sang in that interview on Wednesday's episode of Dynamite. Deb recently defeated Thunder Rosa, Meltzer says here, for the women's title on one of the United Wrestling Network pay-per-views that you can buy through my affiliate link in the description. And that affiliate link is at thehannibaltv.com. The Blood Hunter is going to be on some of those supposedly in December, from what I hear. That's the rumblings of the CEO, Rick Bassman. AEW Full Gear at that pay-per-view earlier this month, Deb did retain her title against Allison Kay. Allison Kay, I've done an interview with, if you search her name, with the Hannibal TV. And I guess Deb was confronted by Thunder Rosa there. Thunder Rosa is also arguing with Ivelisse on social media. They're trying to possibly work an angle. I also have an interview with Ivelisse for another plug. In other UWN pay-per-view news, the NWA World Tag Team titles changed hand as Aaron Stevens and JR Kratos beat James Storm and Eli Drake for the titles. I met James Storm and Eli Drake several times, and I liked them. Mike Bennett is fighting Chris Dickinson in the finals to see who is going to be the first UWN champion. I like both of those guys. They both appeared on my channel, but I would have to take the Great North Wrestling Star, the Blood Hunter, over either of those guys if he faced whoever won that title, especially with Sullivan and possibly Blaze with him. I think they would lose the title, either one of them. Dickinson beat Darren Young for his tournament place in the finals. Darren Young, I'm supposed to be doing an interview with on Tuesday, by the way. And Bennett defeated Sean Davari for his place in the final. Leo Rush also recently debuted for the United Wrestling Network. CMLL is doing closed-door matches at Arena Mexico to fill TV commitments. AAA is now reconsidering possibly doing Triple Mania with no fans, according to Meltzer. Or maybe it could be a drive-in type show because they might not allow crowds in Mexico by December. Melissa Coates, Super Genie, who's in a video on this channel, Sabu against the Blood Hunter versus Kevin Sullivan. The Blood Hunter with Kevin Sullivan versus Sabu and Super Genie. She had to have her left leg amputated from the knee down. I hate to hear that. I really hate to hear that. And she does have a GoFundMe, which after I'm done this, I will put it in the comments and pin to the top of the comments. If I don't do it right away, it's because I've forgotten for today, but I will eventually do it. But you could always search GoFundMe Melissa Coates, because you know Sabu can't be making much during this lockdown with Independence canceled pretty much, other than a handful of them. So I'm sure if anyone could help her out, that would be great. Dave Meltzer also mentions Tony Capone's North American Wrestling Alliance will have Thursday night shows on Fight TV starting soon, I guess starting January 7th. And on December 19th, they're having an pay-per-view called Jingle Brawl from the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach, featuring the Hercules Cup, honoring Hercules Hernandez. Paul Roma, who was in a team called Power and Glory with Hercules, fought LOD at WrestleMania 7, is going to be involved with the group. Maybe I'll finally get an interview with them that the fans have been asking, because I'm actually going to be covering their December 19 event that is going to feature such stars as Gangrel, Alpha Jr., Davey Boy Smith Jr., Johnny Swinger, Cassidy Riley, Bruce Santee, Kevin Sullivan managing the Blood Hunter, and Amber Nova, who, if you search on this channel, Amber Nova versus Ninja Muggers, there's a cinematic match that has almost 100,000 views. And I look forward to meeting that beauty in person finally at that event. And I'm sure she'll do an interview with me. And I hope she drives her Chevy Nova down, because we might just have to make a live video of her driving me in that car. That would be cool. In MLW news, Tom Lawler has tested positive for COVID-19. And I know that Fatu, Jacob Fatu, managed by Joseph Samel, the Sheik, are back with that company. And I like both of those guys a lot. I would rate them highly. UFC news and Mark Coleman. I did mention this previously. He's 55. He had a heart attack. There is a great interview with him on this channel. I really liked that interview, which I did at his house over a long period of time because we took breaks during the interview. I really hope to do another interview with him. I'm sorry he had a heart attack. He is the godfather of ground and pound. He was also a wrestler in Japan. Won the 2000 Pride Grand Prix tournament. I think he should wrestle again. I think he should 100% wrestle again. Maybe Great North Wrestling will do a Cage Wars in the U.S. in the future and have Mark Coleman wrestle. That would be cool. Amanda Nunez is out of the December 12th featherweight title defense against Megan Anderson. It's an injury that hasn't been disclosed yet. It's not supposed to be that serious.